The following program was paid for by the Ozark Gateway Tourism Council.
From the majestic scenes of the Ozark Mountains to the lush farmlands at the entrance to this natural wonderland, it's time once again to discover Arkansas's Ozark Gateway region. A weekly look at the people, places, sights, and sounds that make up one of the most scenic, rustic, and unspoiled regions of our great country. Now, here's your host for Discover Arkansas Ozark Gateway region, Doug DeForest and Laura Crowley.
Hi folks, and welcome to Discover Arkansas Ozark Gateway region. I'm your host, Doug DeForest.
And I'm Laura Crowley, and today we're going to keep it right here at home.
That's right, folks. One of the most beautiful places in Arkansas is in my backyard, Fulton County, Arkansas. There's so much to see, Laura. There's the Mammoth Spring State Park, which is amazing. We're going to go up there and talk to those folks. There's so many things in Mammoth Springs to see that I don't know how we're going to have time to do all this.
I think we're going to just be overloaded with material, but that's a good problem to have.
That's a good problem
Absolutely.
to have. Folks, Fulton County, Arkansas is a great place to see. If you haven't been here, we're going to take you on a personal tour. So don't go away, because we'll be right back with our show, Discover Arkansas Ozark Gateway region.
Now is the time to start planning your vacation getaway and see the sights of the natural state. Visit OzarkGateway.com for your free vacation planner. From relaxing fishing trips and fun on the lake, state parks and historic sites, to exciting festivals, cultural venues and events, museums, caves and caverns, there's something for every member of the family. Visit OzarkGateway.com for your free visitor's guide today. Ozark Gateway, great vacations at affordable prices.
This week's show, as promised, takes you to my home, a place I'm proud to call home, beautiful Fulton County, Arkansas. Yes, Fulton County is a beautiful county with its free-flowing rivers and beautiful lakes and nice, friendly people. Fulton County was formed on December 21st, 1842, and was named for William Fulton, the last governor of the Arkansas Territory. Its location makes it pretty much the center north of Ozark Gateway region, and a great place to show off some of our fine scenery and aquatic fowl. Now, my German family, I think, had pretty much had enough of floating down wild rivers, so we thought we'd take them to the headwaters at Mammoth Spring State Park, where it all began, where the river comes straight up out of the ground and feeds a natural habitat along miles and miles of river basin. Now, this big old gun caught Klaus's eye.
Cannon known as the Big Gun was brought to Mammoth Spring by freight car in 1893. It took 8 men to unload the cannon barrel at the Mammoth Spring Depot. The homemade carriage you see in the photo was made just for the cannon. Early on, the cannon was fired each morning at sunrise during reunion week. They used 10 pounds of black powder, gunny sacks, and newspaper for wadding. Men would use the ramrod to pack the black powder and wadding into the breech of the gun. The cannon was fired by a red-hot wagon rod. Ready! Aim! At sunset, the cannon was fired again, and a huge bonfire was built. Everyone sat around the bonfire, sang songs, and listened to stories of adventures about the Civil War. Each story would get bigger and bigger, and sometimes fights would follow.
In the early days, Mammoth Spring was more than just a tourist attraction. Mammoth Spring was vital to the Native Americans that lived along it and the settlers who needed water for their everyday needs. In later years, it was used to power hydroelectric plants and served as a sort of natural air conditioning for the settlers of the 1800s. The millions and millions of gallons that flow through this spring daily remind a person of the power of the inner earth, as it rambles hundreds of miles on its underground path to this opening. Mammoth Spring picks up the natural elements of the earth and brings them to the Ozarks. Yes, human hearts and minds can dream and human hands can build, but only the good Lord can make something this beautiful and put it right here in the middle of Ozark Gateway country.
It's hard to believe, but over 200 million gallons of water come out just right here.
That's right, Laura. You know, it's amazing that one of these types of things is in our backyard, right here in the Ozarks. And many people don't even see it. They drive right by it on the highway. They they need to stop and take advantage of what we have in the Ozarks. And Mammoth Spring is one of those things.
Absolutely. I don't know how you could avoid it. It's gorgeous.
Let's catch up with our German tourists and see how much fun they're having.
All over the past couple weeks, the Germans have enjoyed a fantastic ride down Spring River in some great canoes. I think right now they're just enjoying the peace and quiet and serenity of the beautiful Ozarks. Whether it's soaking up the sun or maybe taking a walk, these guys know how to have a good time. But like typical Americans, we figured the Germans could use a little education on our local treasure, so Laura and I dug out a few facts and shared them with the folks.
Laura, the water in Mammoth Spring has a year-round temperature of 58 degrees Fahrenheit with an average measured flow of 9 million gallons of water per hour.
The spring originates from rainwater, which soaks down through the clay soils found on the high, flat plateau areas of West Plains, Missouri, and southwest of Koshkonong, Missouri.
The rain percolates through the soil and fractured limestone deposits until it finally reaches the underground water table, and from there the water flows along a vast underground system of interconnected, water-filled caves that eventually converge into a main artery which surfaces in this basin at the foot of the hill in front of us. The basin measures 70 foot deep at the head of the spring and 12 feet deep at the channels.
And although the spring appears clear and pure, it's not. As the water flows through the ground, it picks up harmful chemicals and other waste materials. We recommend you do not drink the spring water. Looks are deceiving.
While in Mammoth Spring, we made sure and went by the Fish Hatchery's brand new aquarium and talked to Richard Shelton, who knows all about the inner workings of this beautiful facility.
Hello, I'm Richard Shelton, and this is the Mammoth Spring National Fish Hatchery Aquatic Conservation Center. This hatchery has been here since 1903, but we have just opened this spring this beautiful new aquatic conservation center that highlights some of the wildlife and aquatic resources in the Ozark area. This is about almost a $4 million facility. It's taken about 10 years to get funding. We have an outdoor recreation specialist that's here for tour groups, school groups that can give day-long or hour-long programs. We have a variety of things to see here. We have fish in ponds outside. We have fish in aquariums inside. We have history of the hatchery and history of the area. So come to this area, and it's a good place to fish. Not at the hatchery, but the Ozarks are a good place to fish. We hope to see you soon. The Mammoth Spring National Fish Hatchery and Aquatic Conservation Center is in Mammoth Spring, Arkansas. It's right off Highway 63. Signs, it's only about a mile off the highway. An easy drive, all paved roads, and admission is free. The Aquatic Conservation Center features 2 large aquariums. This is one of the large round tanks that has gar and catfish in it and some sturgeon, which are raised here on the hatchery. We also have another huge tank that has gar and other species in it, along with 6 smaller aquariums along the wall that have species of fish that are native to the Ozark area. We also have an alligator, which is really not native to this area, but the hatchery has an alligator on display for years and years, and the kids love to come and see it. Most kids in this area don't get a chance to see alligators that often, so we've kept him, and he has a brand new habitat so that people can see him. Mammoth Spring National Fish Hatchery is one of the oldest national fish hatcheries still in existence. It was built in 1903 when the U.S. Fish Commission at that time determined that they needed to establish fish cultural stations across the country to help ease the nation's dwindling fishery resources. This wall contains some hatchery history. It has some artifacts from the early hatchery. It has some fish sculptures. It also has a toy fish truck from the 1950s, and it has some wooden pipe, which was used on many hatcheries before they had cast iron, and occasionally we dig up pieces of this pipe that was used in the first hatchery. This is also an early McDonald hatching jar that was used to hatch cold water species. Currently, the hatchery raises smallmouth bass, largemouth bass, walleye, and a variety of endangered species, including freshwater mussels, lake sturgeon, alligator gar, and Ozark hellbender. Originally, the hatchery raised rainbow trout, and although we're not currently a rainbow trout hatchery, the water is cool enough for trout. One interesting thing about this hatchery is that it has the capability to raise warm, cool, and cold water fish. The hatchery gets its water from Mammoth Spring, which is a constant 58 degrees. This water can be used, as I said, to raise cold water fish such as trout and steelhead, or we can use it in our ponds to raise warm water fish such as bass, bluegill, catfish, and some of the endangered species that we raise. It's really a versatile hatchery. It's the only hatchery in the country that can raise warm, cool, and cold water fish. This panel, A Spring in a Town, depicts the early history of the town of Mammoth Spring. It was founded in the late 1800s. The dam was built also in the late 1800s, and the water from the spring is a cool 58 degrees. And when the railroad came, it brought a lot of tourists to this area. This just shows some of the, at one time there were 3 large hotels. It was a mecca for people coming because of the cool spring water in this far south. And this panel shows some of the things. It had a large mill here. And also the town was the inspiration for the Grand Ole Opry. George D. Hay came here in 1919, and he witnessed a hoedown up here. Actually, it was very close to the hatchery in an old railroad car where a family lived. And at night he went to a hoedown, and in his book, he credits this with the inspiration for to start the Grand Ole Opry. Okay, this panel, the fish car era when railroad cars moved fish, commemorates the fact that early hatcheries were built in rural areas. They were built where there was a really good water supply. It wasn't necessarily near where the fish needed to be. They didn't have pumps. They didn't have a way to move the fish, so most hatcheries were built close to railroads, as this one was. In the early history, the U.S. Fish Commission built specially designed rail cars called fish cars. These cars were fully self-contained and were able to haul fish for several weeks. The first cars were fairly primitive, and the water had to be exchanged by hand. It had to be aerated by hand to keep the fish alive. Later, they used ice and mechanical aeration, but this hatchery depicts the history of the fish car and how it was used on hatcheries, and we have some really interesting artifacts. We have some china that was used in the dining portion of the car. We have a model and a diorama of one of the early cars and some other artifacts from this area.
Our German friends are getting a look at how the Ozarks look today, but they're also getting a little look at yesteryear here at the Frisco Depot in Mammoth Spring.
Well, hello everybody. Welcome to the 1886 Frisco Depot. My name's Josh.
Ja, also sagt erstmal Hallo zu jedem. Sein Name ist Josh und willkommen in dem Bahnhof.
Now, you've stepped back in time over 129 years. This is the 1886 Frisco Depot.
Also hier geht über 190 Jahre zurück in die Zeit. Und das ist das 1886 gebauter Bahnhof. Und wir gehen jetzt zurück in der Zeit, wenn die Geschichte erzählt.
Sure, and it ran from 1886 all the way until 1968 when it shut down.
Das war offen bis 1900. Anything again? Yeah. Wow, 100 years. Das war 1986. War der Bahnhof offen.
As you can see, this depot is inactive now, but trains still pass every day.
Ja, wie ihr seht, ist der Bahnhof nicht mehr offen, aber der Zug fährt immer noch jeden Tag vorbei.
In fact, this train right now, he's running from Springfield, Missouri to Memphis, Tennessee.
Also der fährt von Springfield, Missouri bis nach Memphis, Tennessee, which is about how many hours maybe?
From here to Memphis would take you 4 hours in a car.
Ja, also ungefähr 4 Autos mit dem Auto. 4 Stunden im Auto.
Now, fun with history. The room that you're standing in right now is known as the historic black waiting room. Jim Crow laws were in effect, so it was separate but equal.
Also das ist bekannt als der historische schwarze Warteraum.
And now we're in the historic agent's office. Over here you can see the agent, Joseph. And over here you can see telegrapher Ted.
Ja, also wir sind hier in dem Agenten-Office. Das ist der Agent Joseph und der Telegraph. What was the name of him?
His name's Ted.
Oh, Ted. Yeah.
Telegrapher Ted. And we all have these cell phones in our pockets right now, but Ted is a time before cell phones and he's sending out Morse code messages.
Also wir haben alle unser Handy jetzt in der Tasche, aber Ted hat natürlich in einer Zeit gelebt, wo es noch keine Handys gab und er sitzt eben vor seinem Telegramm und verschickt Nachrichten. Most.
Right. And the artifacts that you're seeing, these are mostly donated artifacts.
Okay. Ja, die meisten Gegenstände hier drin sind gespendet worden. Yeah.
From Mammoth Spring residents and people of the time. So it's their families that donated these items that you see.
Ja, also von der Mammoth Springs Residenz und eben Leuten, die zu der Zeit gelebt haben, die das dann hier gespendet haben. Oder denen ihre Familien.
So if you came to the Frisco Depot, you could make it from here to Memphis or here to Springfield in record time. You definitely want to come down here and try to ride the Frisco if possible.
We found out that the Germans, although we may not have the oldest things on earth here in America, certainly like American culture, and they plan to see a whole lot more of it.
Now is the time to start planning your vacation getaway and see the sights of the natural state. Visit OzarkGateway.com for your free vacation planner. From relaxing fishing trips and fun on the lake, state parks and historic sites, to exciting festivals, cultural venues and events, museums, caves and caverns, there's something for every member of the family. Visit OzarkGateway.com for your free visitor's guide today. Ozark Gateway, great vacations at affordable prices.
All over Fulton County, Arkansas, the views are majestic and as striking as you can find. The Ozark Mountains are a beautiful backdrop for it. Beautiful trees and sunsets, perhaps the occasional song bouncing off each and every ridge as the old-timers play their instruments on their porch as if to be calling to each other from the rocks above. All up and down these hills, the sound of a coyote may be mixed with the sound of a banjo. Yeah, it's quiet time. Fulton County, Arkansas, nestled, scenic, and quiet, as if God left it that way just for us to enjoy. Tourism abounds, but it abounds in equal harmony with the nature and the sounds of the birds and crickets of these hills. Sometimes these landscapes are right before your eyes, and sometimes you gotta look a little harder to find them. But they're out there, all through Fulton County, Arkansas. One of the most beautiful stops in Ozark Mountain Country. The rivers have a way of calling us home. They have a way to teach us to be free. Rolling down those rivers in a kayak or exploring them with friends in a canoe just makes for one more wonderful, majestic day in Ozark Mountain Country. Hills, mountains, trees, music, water, and memories. That's a Fulton County memory worth remembering. Why, just grabbing a kayak or a canoe and taking a stroll down Spring River will show a man what he's missing. Will teach a man the appreciation of slowing down, grabbing a paddle, and taking to the open waters. This might challenge your skill level, might possibly make you fully appreciative of the surroundings that you see around you. Freedom. That's what kayaking down our beautiful rivers means. Sights and sound of a railroad train passing by let us know that technology and modern living is just not too far away. but just far enough out of our reach to keep us relaxing and dreaming. Beneath the waters is a whole other world. Just like going around each corner in the Ozarks, underneath the water we have a whole different mystery. Yes, the Ozark game fish and the underwater culture is as unique as each sunset, as unique as each daybreak, and lets us know there's a whole lot of living left to do on both sides of that water. If you're a fisherman, you might try your luck at some of the bass, catfish, brown, and rainbow trout that are in all the waters that make up Ozark Mountain Country. I think one's coming by us right now. It takes an expert to know these waters, and Adam Davis has been around here for about as long as he's been on the earth. We're happy to have him to tell us a little bit more about Fulton County, Arkansas.
Hey guys, I'm Adam Davis, president of the Ozark Gateway Regional Tourism Association. I'd like to welcome you to my hometown, Mammoth Spring. Mammoth Spring is a really neat area, not just because it's in the Ozark Gateway and in Arkansas, but because it's one of the towns in the south that has a lot of charm. There's something here for everyone, not just sweet tea, pie, and southern accents. We have Spring River, which starts right here at the Mammoth Spring State Park, which is just a few blocks from where we're sitting right now. And the great thing about Mammoth Spring, besides the fact that it's one of the 10 largest springs in the world, is that it creates beautiful Spring River that attracts 600,000 fishermen a year, plus lots of floaters and families coming to camp on the riverbank, make s'mores, stay in cabins, that sort of thing. The Spring River area is a great area to visit, not just Mammoth Spring. We also have the town of Hardy, which is just south of us. Cherokee Village is also right there on Spring River. And then Salem, which is the county seat for Fulton County. So you can come on vacation in the area and have plenty to do. If you're a thrill seeker, there's horseback riding, zip lining. Like I mentioned earlier, we have the Spring River, so there's rafting, canoeing, kayaking, all kinds of great things for outdoor enthusiasts. This area is really a mecca for outdoor folks. If you're not an outdoors type person, that's fine too. We have plenty to do for you as well. Great shopping in the area. Main Street of Mammoth Spring, the square at Salem, and then downtown Hardy has a great array of shops. Keep you busy all day. And then if you'd like to kick back in the evening, we have lots of cabins. You could rent a cabin, sit on the back porch and drink you some coffee and enjoy the crickets in the background. I just want to tell you guys a little bit about our hydroelectric plant here at the Mammoth Spring State Park. When it was built, kind of in the heyday when it was running, it provided enough electricity for the town of Mammoth Spring and Thayer, which is the town of Missouri just north of us. Of course, back then, not everyone had a big screen TV, so it would take a lot more electricity now. The hydroelectric plant is not in use anymore. It's been turned into a museum that you can see every day of the week at our state park. It has a kind of exhibit set up to show you what it was like, when it was running. So it's a great thing to see. Kids really like it, have a lot of field trips come and go through it. Also at the state park, we have several other amenities. We rent kayaks and paddle boats. There's a depot museum, our 1886 Frisco Depot Museum. It gives tours. That's free to the public. If you want to make a donation, we appreciate that. And then, of course, the main thing with our park is the spring. Mammoth Spring is one of the 10 largest springs in the world. Puts out almost 10 million gallons of water every hour. So if you had a milk jug filled with water, imagine 10 million of those coming out of the spring every hour. And because of that, the Spring River is very dependable, and a lot of people come and float it year-round, fish it year-round. There's never a lack of water. Another great thing about Mammoth Spring is that we have a lot of special events that happen in the city here and at the state park. So there's never a lack of things to do if you're in the area. You could join us for Spooktacular, that's in the fall, and it's a citywide celebration with games, costumes. They even have a costume contest, and that's in October, usually the last Saturday evening in October. And also we have a lot of events happening at the park, from Kayaking 101. You can learn to kayak, even if you've never been in a boat before. They give a great program there on kayaking. They also have the Easter egg scramble every Easter, with around 5,000 eggs hidden with prizes and candy for the kids, several age categories. Dutch oven cook-off and Dutch oven class. The Dutch oven cook-off is when teams of Dutch oven cooks come together and compete with different dishes, and there's judging. The Dutch oven class that we offer, our interpreter teaches, and if you've ever wondered how to cook in a Dutch oven, you can come and check that out, and they do a really good job of teaching you how to do that. That way on your next camping trip you can cook your own breakfast in a Dutch oven. In the town of Mammoth Spring, we also have Solemnal Judge Days, which is kind of a celebration of George D. Hay. George D. Hay came to Mammoth Spring years ago, and that was his inspiration to create the Grand Ole Opry. So you can definitely come check that out. We also have a bunch of parades throughout the year, so you may be lucky enough to be in town for one of those. The town of Mammoth Spring in general is very scenic. It's in the rolling foothills of Arkansas, so no matter what time of year you're here, you're really going to enjoy it. It's very pretty. If you're coming to Mammoth Spring or the Mammoth Spring area, you don't have to worry about a place to stay or things to eat while you're here. We have lots of good options for lodging and restaurants. Right here in Mammoth Spring, we have a lodge. We also have a motel, bed and breakfast, cabins, and camping right on the river, an RV park. So if you'd want to stay in, we've got you covered.
Discover Arkansas Ozark Gateway Region, paid for by a combination of state and Ozark Gateway Region funds.